You're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate, a Bristol Bears podcast made by fans for fans. We're 2.5 season card holders at Ashton Gate who love the club, the game and all things Bears. This week, episode 2 of season 5 and our 144th outing overall, we round up the Premiership Cup stroke pre-season campaign and reflect on the shellacking that we gave Cambridge on Friday. It was great to see a smorgasbord of tries, but we ultimately finished second in our group on account of the 2 defeats against Exeter and Ealing. So should we be a bit disappointed that we haven't progressed to the knockout phases? It seems like it's been a long time coming, but we also review the first game of the Premiership and catch up with our friends at the Rolling Maul pod to find out how they're feeling about the trip to the gate. Facing the Grizzly Tigers first up is a pretty tough assignment. Finally, the European shirt was launched this week, quite literally, as the photo shoot appeared to take place inside of a balloon. So we hear the thoughts of our fashion expert Miles and wonder whether it was all just a bit of marketing hot air or something more artistically fundamental. All this and more. I'm Pete and I'm joined by Lee and Miles for a cheeky beer and a bit of rugby banter. Well fellas, here we are again at Lee's Podpad, the three musketeers of fan podcasting, forging our own identity in the amateur rugby punditry world. So Lee, thanks for having us. How are you, fella?
Yeah, good. Good to see you, boys. It's been a busy couple of weeks, hasn't it? I've been away to Malta on a holiday, and now back, all ready for the start of the season against Tigers on Friday evening. Can't wait, mate.
And what about you, Miles? How's it been juggling the kids, the Duchess, the investment portfolios? You're looking a little bit tired, mate. Has it been tricky?
It's been all right. The investment portfolios, that's the easy job, mate. It's juggling the children and the wives. That has been tricky. The Duchess and my mother and my mother-in-law decided to go on holiday, so that's not fair. Holiday and work all the same week, so I've been in charge a week. I think the kids have been bored of me telling them that all week, but I've survived and relaxed this weekend. Pete and I went on a little paddle down in Bristol Docks this morning, had a little coffee in the paddle, and come for more relaxation and rugby banter this evening with you chaps.
I should say that this is the annual Bears Beyond the Gate derby. Me and Miles paddleboard race up the creek down in South Devon. We'll let you know how it goes in a couple of weeks' time. I'm sure you're all desperate to hear. But also, Miles, there's something else now. Now that we're down to a smaller group, we've given you a little bit more responsibility, Miles, haven't you? We've actually given you a little pet project, and I think, would you like to tell the listeners what it is?
Well, you could say that Bears Beyond the Gate has progressed in the sort of media front to the 18th century, i.e. we set up an Instagram account, haven't we, boys? Well, not we, I did. I don't know how I did it. I just used to follow a few people on Instagram and thought, you know what, this is what we're lacking really. All the young and the cool have Instagram accounts. So I thought some late 40 early 50-year-olds should also have an Instagram account. So we set it up. I think, if you're lucky, you could be our 39th follower, listeners. I'm sure it'll progress from there. We've done a few little sort of video clips on it on the game on Friday night, linked it to our Facebook account. So we'll keep you going. Keep you going.
It's good to have a little project.
Yeah, absolutely.
Miles, isn't it?
I'm not sure Instagram was around in the 18th century, but I think you meant 21st century. But anyway,
I was joking,
let's crack on.
I think that's Miles. We all know Miles' sense of humour by now, Pete.
That's true.
I've got to just interject a second. A little bit disappointed in you, mate.
Why?
Well, you're a teacher, in the education system. I know you use shellacking against Cambridge.
Yep.
Slightly disappointed you didn't maybe do something a little bit more educational based. Obviously, there's a bit of a university.
With the Cambridge,
I just thought we missed out on that. I expected more from it.
I did actually. I did tweet something out where I said that given the matchup, the score is probably already academic.
Okay, I'll forgive you.
But I guess you're right. I think too many puns is a bit too much for people. I thought I'd just stick with the hot air balloon one to start with. But it's a good point, well made, and I'll do my best. But let's crack on, because Miles, you and me actually went down the gate on Friday to see the Cambridge game. 98 points on the board, a multitude of tries, many of them I can't remember, but Dan Thomas got 4, Ibitoye got a hat-trick, Harry Thacker got a hat-trick.
3 hat-tricks, yeah.
We had Someone else got 2. So Rich Lane got 2. So loads of good stuff. I mean, what was your feeling of the night? How did you enjoy it?
Well, this is my first game down this season. I finally had a free evening and I thought, the team sheet looks pretty good. I need to go and see what team is going to be put out. Obviously, looking forward to the Leicester game next week, and I loved it. Crowd size was a bit disappointing, but bearing in mind it was on our season ticket, I was expecting a few more, but fair enough. Great weather, and the occasion was great, and I saw some fantastic running rugby. I guess we expected that. We could have got 100 points, to be fair, had a few of the kicks from AJ have gone over, but I think the team looked pretty solid. Defence was all right. I mean, people might say, "Oh, you let a couple of soft tries from Cambridge," but fair play, Cambridge. Their heads didn't really dip throughout most of the game, despite them being near a cricket score.
I mean, talking about the last try, you said about us, we were down to 13 men, weren't we, when I think they scored that last try?
Yeah.
I think they took a few players off right at the end, and we weren't sure why. It didn't appear to be injuries, or it might have been precaution, but we did wonder whether it was just a kind of chance to try and play down with
everyone,
a few people down, and just see how they coped with their defence. So Cambridge did score one when we had 13, but I think. But you're right. I mean, any particular players stood out for you, Miles?
Well, obviously, there's players I haven't seen before. Jancy van Rensburg, I hadn't actually seen in the flesh. He did a great game, I thought. It looked really good in the centre, in attack as well. I thought that was encouraging. I thought Josh Caulfield, I haven't seen play yet. I thought it was fantastic. He was great in the line-out, seemed to be running that show. So those 2 new players obviously come from London Irish. I thought actually they look a great prospect for the future.
Yeah. So it's good. I mean, I personally, I thought that clearly we were under no pressure at all.
Yeah.
But that's not to say we wouldn't drop the ball and stuff like that. So I was quite pleased to see that when we're under no pressure whatsoever, pretty much, we still managed to to finish most of our tries, to do all the basics right. Of course, pressure creates other problems, and I'm not sure really how much we learned from that game, apart from the fact that when our players have got time and space, they look brilliant, and fair play. They played all sorts of different attacking moves across. It was like watching the Bears of that first season when we started, where loads of wraparound passes around the back and the forwards getting involved and offloading and stuff like that. I mean, it was a fun time. I think
there was a little, obviously, we're going to say that because I tell you, I forgot to mention who we were thoroughly impressed with, and that was little Harry Rowson on the wing. Yeah. He was like lightning, wasn't he? Ducking and diving, some great plays. I mean, admittedly, maybe in the Premiership, his size could be a disadvantage in getting picked week in, week out. But for this Prem Cup and as a backup, I thought he was really encouraging. So well done to him.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I thought he had a bit of rugby intelligence as well. Even though he was quite small and fast, he knew when to cut inside, he knew when to put his foot on it, and he knew when to kind of not take into contact and maybe offload it. So I think he's definitely one for the future.
Yeah,
I'm not sure he'll appear against sort of big sides like Leicester to start with. So I think all in all, very positive. I pick up on what you said about Josh Caulfield. Again, didn't know much about him, but he looked the business. He looked like he was running the line out. He was, he was shouldering quite a lot of the heavy lifting. He was taking quite a lot of the contact, and he scored a try as well. And he was quite promising. And I think he was promising in the sense I think he's going to be a starter against Tigers, because we are a bit short in certain areas. So that was quite positive. But as I said, it's hard to really know because we weren't really tested, and you do sort of wonder, wouldn't it have been nice just to have the last fixture before Tigers, to have something a little bit more competitive, maybe play Ealing then, or maybe we could have played Saints, and maybe in the future, I'm surprised the Premiership clubs didn't sort of look at the fixtures and say, can't you just give us a bit more of a competitive one the week before we get to it, because I know we're going to talk about Tigers in a bit, but I know that they played Bedford and they rested pretty much all of their, whereas we probably didn't. So, I mean, it's difficult. But I mean, Lee, it's been quite an extended pre-season. We've had the Barbarians game. We had a kind of a very, very minor pre-season game at Exeter first. Then the Barbarians game. Then we had that Exeter kind of when we sent the kids and lost 75-0. Then we've had some competitive-ish games apart from Friday where they've tried different combinations, so on, for the Premiership Cup. Ultimately, we didn't win our group. We're not going to progress to the knockouts, so we are going to have a big gap in our fixture list come next year. I mean, what's your feeling about this? Was there anything more we could have done, or is this just the inevitable that they had to treat it as a pre-season? We had to sacrifice a few games.
I mean, for me, I think it was always the Premiership Cup was always about just getting minutes into legs, and just getting the system, the training into play on a match day basis. So to be fair, I mean, it's going to be a pain in the backside again, having a big gap, isn't it, without a game? But I wasn't really expecting us to do anything, and except for getting game fitness and match tactics. So for me, I think it's served its purpose in that case.
Yeah.
And we all know the big test is coming Friday night because we all know what we're going to be facing against Tigers.
Yeah, I mean, you do look back and think that Barbarians game, which was was a great it was a supercharged pre-season. We obviously felt obliged to put out quite a strong side, and as a result of that, our first Premiership Cup game was very weak. And you kind of think, did that kibosh our chances a little bit of further?
Yeah.
We've kind of gone for a kind of supercharged pre-season game in the place of a potential semi-final and actually a final, and real silverware. It's a difficult one, isn't it? And I don't really blame. I know it was really difficult, and I think all clubs had to juggle it. It's a unique thing. It only happens every 4 years. But now I look at us being second in the table.
Yeah.
I think, it would be quite nice.
I agree. I mean, but I do think it swings and roundabouts. And let's face it was a couple of years ago. We didn't have any pre-season, and we went into the main season completely shot to bits and not match ready. And we cannot say that this year.
No, I think you're right, and that's very wise words.
Always,
Lee, that's what you hear.
Withywood wise.
That's Withywood wise. That's the words from the street. That is, isn't it? I love it. That's why you're here, mate. Brilliant.
Oh, thanks.
Amongst many other reasons, of course, like hosting giving us somewhere to do it, and
something
providing
warm.
Yeah, and providing for beer, and giving us a bit of authenticity. But anyway,
and the nuts
as well, and of course, let's go early on it. The Christmas tree.
Oh yeah,
I mean, that's going to come.
That's going to be out next week, I think.
Can we at least get past Halloween? Come on.
I think we've got to go. Miles is right. I mean, we were very early last year. It was mid-November?
Something like that. It was. Yeah,
I did.
But to be honest,
I felt a bit intimidated even by November.
Come mid-November, we may need some extra input. To be fair, but yeah.
I promise we'll get past Halloween first. Okay.
Well, anyway, boys, this is it. This is why we're here, really, to be honest. We're really getting back in it now because on Friday we are looking forward to the visit of Leicester Tigers. In the past few seasons, it's always been an opener against them from down the road, from Bath. But, Premier Rugby have decided that it's going to be us, and we're the Friday night game. We're going to be on TNT Sports. I mean, it's a big challenge. So, this is what we're really here for. This is what this whole long pre-season has led up to. But before we talk about it, you'll be pleased to know that I've reactivated the, I think to be fair, the fan favourite, which was Pete's Premiership previews, the PPPs. I managed to speak to Mike Cooper at Leicester's Tigers, the Rolling Maul pod. And caught up with him yesterday to find out his thoughts for how their pre-season has gone, and also his thoughts about the game to come. So let's hear what he's got to say. Okay, so it's great to speak to Mike from the Rolling Maul pod. He's a friend of our podcast. We've spoken to each other over the last couple of seasons. And Mike, it's great to see you. How are you?
Likewise, Pete. Really good to see you, mate. Yeah, very well. Just enjoying the fact that we're two of the coolest cats in town recording in the middle of a Saturday afternoon. Clearly, our social lives know no bounds.
Yeah, just for the listeners out there, it's complicated. Mike's got young kids. We're trying to fit this in between naps and video sessions. I've got teenage girls, which you think might be easier, but I've just been taxiing around the town. So we've managed to slot in this sort of 1:30 on a Saturday. So Bristol actually played last night and almost scored 100 points, which is something we haven't seen for a while.
I saw it looked like a landslide, looked like a good hit out for a team similar to what I expect we'll see on Friday.
Absolutely, and I mean, it was quite nice to see that. I don't know how much we learned from it, but we didn't drop the ball that often, so that was quite nice. And of course, you lot are playing Bedford, I think, this afternoon.
That's right.
And I don't know what sort of team you've got out for Bedford.
Full academy. I think our hit out was against Newcastle on Saturday, just gone. This Saturday against Bedford, I think there is one senior squad player in there. The rest are all development squad players, or even just pure academy players, not even in the development squad. Yeah. So it's a strange one because I think we still need a win to get a home semi-final. So it'll be a good test for a lot of young lads. There are a couple of guys who have really impressed from the development squad. Finn Carnduff and Emeka Leone in the back row. Both have half a shout of being in the squad for next Friday. But other than that, I think that we're trying to use it so we have a week's rest going in.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, that leads me on nicely to the sort of first question I wanted to ask you is how has your pre-season gone? For all of us, it was the Premiership Cup, obviously with it inverted commas, but essentially, all the Prem teams have had to use this as a way of developing or getting ready for the first league game. So how would you summarise the Tigers' sort of pre-season, as it were?
Full of renewed optimism. Obviously, last season was a little bit of a cluster F. I don't know if you allow swear.
No, we're a family show.
I'll be polite. I'll use the polite term instead. But basically, what happened was, obviously Borthwick and the entire coaching gang left halfway through. So we ended up getting an entirely new coaching team in, which is Dan McKellar, who was an assistant coach for Australia, also head coach of the ACT Brumbies. And the approach he's brought has got fans very, very excited. What he's seems to be doing is building on the set piece focus that we have at Tigers, but also developing a lot more sort of our attacking play, our attacking structures. People who follow England will know Steve likes a particular type of game, and Tigers have sort of really doubled down on that kicking heavy game that we'd focused on before. And it led to a lot of sort of one-out runners, slower ball, whilst the focus for us seems to be, once we get into the right areas, really focusing on quick ball, speed almost over accuracy, lots of movement. So we're not seeing sort of like just the one-out, fairly static runners. We're seeing tip-on passes, forwards coming around the corner, and the backs looking to put it wide. And obviously, got a couple of really exciting new signings out wide. We've got Ollie Hassel-Collins, who has looked absolutely electric in pre-season. Josh Bassett as well is a proven try scorer at this level. So, yeah, there's a lot of excitement about how we're playing. The Premiership Cup's been a bit strange, hasn't it? Because, like you say, it's a pre-season, but at the same time, there's been a lot of guff about the spirit of the cup and stuff like that. And actually, the pre-season takes priority, really. So you've got to get coaches, particularly new coaches, who want to see how their team plays. So we've put out some stronger sides, and we've also put in some development sides and sort of fringe players as well. I think we put out the senior side away against Sale, who, to be fair to them, put out a mixed side, and we got a fairly unconvincing win there in some pretty dodgy conditions. But then we put out our senior side at home against Newcastle, who went full noise, obviously minus their World Cup players. And it was an absolute landslide. I think it was 60 points to 7, and we missed 5 conversions. So, if Charlie Atkinson had his kicking boots on, it would have been 70 points to 7. The set piece looked absolutely frightening, and that's without Montoya. I think James Cronin is injured, and Dan Cole obviously off with England. So without a first choice front row, it absolutely obliterated Newcastle's near first choice front row, and that was really exciting. And then the handling in the backs has got everyone very excited. People are trying to sort of keep a lid on it, but people think this could be a really interesting season for Tigers.
Well, I'm feeling a bit depressed already listening to that, because we struggled before against you. Although, to be fair, the last few seasons we have had some good humdinger games.
There was the draw last season, wasn't there?
It was.
And you're lucky, because I'm going to this game, and my record watching Tigers play in the West Country is absolutely abysmal. And I think particularly at least Bristol, the prices are relatively reasonable. They are more expensive than I remember, but at least it's not like going to Bath, where I pay 60 quid to get pissed on in the rain and see us lose, which happens regularly.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think when you think about it, I think the last 2 games at the gate was, as you say, a draw last year and then before that was the last
Was it the Boxing Day game?
Boxing Day, and you scored right at the end.
Yeah, that was a hell of a game.
Hell of a game that, and actually, in some ways, it was. It gives us a bit of hope, I guess. But it does sound like not only does it sound like your pack has got stronger and more organised, is that you're now going to be like flinging it around at pace in the back line. Which obviously is what we like to see in rugby. We do like to see that sort of game rather than a continual kicking game, I guess. So, what do you think? I mean, what do you think will be your kind of your team on Friday? Who should and perhaps rather than go for the whole team, I mean, which players do you think the Bristol fans should be looking out for? And how do you think it's going to go, basically?
Well, it's really interesting because I think that most of the team will be relatively familiar. Perhaps. I think the second row looked really strong with Cam Henderson and Harry Wells. I think that'll be good. I think the back row is a particular area of strength, even without Tommy Raffel and Jasper Wiese. As I mentioned before, Emeka Ilione, former England under-20s captain, is tipped to have a breakthrough season. He's a heck of an athlete, really good over the floor, dynamic in the carry. The Hanro Liebenberg will fill the 6 shirt, but then who fills that 7 and 8 shirt? You've got Ollie Cracknell. Matt Rogerson, who we picked up for London Irish captain, who is just an absolute workhorse, very dynamic, very versatile as well. And then we've got Carl Hatherall as well, who is just an ex-Worcester player who is spent a season in France and is just an angry man. He's cut from the same cloth as Wiese, hyper aggressive in the carry. So that back row is going to be ultra physical. And I think that's an area where we probably, in all honesty, look to get an edge as well as a set piece. In the backs, a lot of attention, quite rightly, will go to Ollie Hassel-Collins, but there are 2 guys aside from him who have really, really impressed in pre-season, who are new to the club, and that's Jamie Shilcock, the fullback. He may start on the bench, but he is just a wonderful footballer, lovely kicker of the ball as well, and a lovely option as a second fly half. And the other guy who has looked super impressive, but to be fair, his forwards have been putting it on a plate, is Joe Powell, the London Irish scrum half, ex-Wallaby international, knows Dan McKellar well from his days at the Brumbies. And his service is just getting the ball and whipping it out, and also keeping half an eye out for a gap as well. And he's looked absolutely lethal in our pre-season games and seems to fit in well to this much quicker brand of rugby we're looking to play when we get in the right areas. It's not a departure from what we've done before entirely. There's still a big focus on set piece dominance. McKellar, believe it or not, if you see him, you think, oh, was he a back row or a centre or something? No, he was a prop back in the day. So his focus is all line out and scrums as a priority, but he's obviously got a slightly more rounded view on how the game should be played. So I think what we're looking to do is expand it a bit, and I don't say the S&C work that we seem to have done looks really, really good. Guys like Dan Kelly looks just like an absolute Hulk in the middle now. And the front row as well have lost a heck of a lot of extra timber. Joe Hayes in particular, he looks as physically strong as I've ever seen him. So Joe Hayes, I think in the tight is one to look out for. And I'll say, obviously Ollie Hassel-Collins is the big name out wide.
No, I mean, even though he has like painted fingernails and stuff like that, he's still one to fear.
Yeah, not one usually to get sort of the adoration of the Crumby Terrace, but they absolutely love him. I think at Tigers we accept that 90% of our team should be very gruff, ugly men who just want to fight. But then there is always room, 10% for a little bit of outrageous flair, which was Castro Giovanni for a while. But he was our showman, and he was a prop. But having Hassel-Collins there, and I heard somebody say he could paint my fingernails if he keeps playing like that. And that's sort of the attitude at the moment. He's when they played against Newcastle, he set up a try with a break down the wing, and he had Radwan who was showing him the outside, and Hassel-Collins thought, well, you're a rival for an England shirt potentially in the squad after the World Cup. So he decided to choose violence instead and just went straight through him. And Radwan is not a bad tackler. And he just knocked him flying. The physicality and the way he runs is he's a joy to watch when he gets going.
Yeah. Okay, well, look, with all of that taken into account, and you're coming to the game, so that's great. It'll be great to catch up with you. And
that's a
and
10-point lead off the bat for you guys.
So, given we're starting with 10 points, according to your things, I mean, in all seriousness, I mean, what you must be feeling pretty optimistic, I would have thought. But what is your prediction for the way it's going to pan out, and perhaps a result rather than a score, maybe?
Yeah, so I am optimistic, but everything is always tempered by the fact that you don't know until you actually get on the pitch. This is Premiership rugby now. You guys have been working under Lamb for a long time. Just a quick one. I think your recruitment in the backs has been sensational. When you see Radradra and Pietau's going, all of a sudden you've got Ravuvu. Oh, very good. Malin's brilliant. And Vakatawa coming in. And actually the signing of the season, I think, is Janssen van Rensburg. He's an absolutely phenomenal player. It still doesn't address, I think, that you're underpowered in the pack and don't have the depth. And that just hasn't been looked at, particularly Joyce going. I think Joyce is a great player. So I think that for all the chat about, like us playing a pretty brand of rugby, I think that we will focus on the set piece, getting dominance there, still playing for territory. Maybe if we start to get some dominance in that sort of area, then I think we might look to play a little bit wider. But I think we'll look to beat you in a physical game, because if we try and take you on and, nice, open, offloading game, there's very few better teams in Bristol. So I'm optimistic, but with a good dollop of caution. I'd say a Tigers win, and I don't really give a stuff about the bonus point at this stage.
No, okay, well, that's good. And, we'll be able to see on Friday when we see each other post-match, no doubt. And perhaps we might have a catch-up then and a few little sound bites and when we know what the score is. But look, I really appreciate that, Mike. It's been great to talk to you as usual. Your pinpoint analysis has given us a lot to ponder. There's no doubt about that.
Cheers, mate. All the best with the pod for this season, and catch up in the next round.
Brilliant, and likewise.
Well, it's always good to listen to Mike, mainly because I learn quite a lot of stuff from him when he speaks.
Very knowledgeable, isn't he?
Absolutely.
Very. I mean, he is. I mean, I think he'd be proud to be called a rugby nose. To be fair,
I think he would.
And actually, as I think some listeners may remember from previous times we've spoken, he actually lives in Keynsham, so he's
He'll be here next Friday night.
He's coming with the other guy from the Rolling Maul pod. They're coming to watch the game. But yeah, I mean, Mike clearly knows his stuff, and he speaks very, very well. I don't know about you fellas, but I felt a little bit like worried.
The optimism out of us.
It did a bit. It sucked the optimism after 15 minutes of listening to that. It really did.
My biggest worry was, he kind of admitted, even then, now that Borthwick's gone, he kind of admitted that, they'd been pretty boring and, he'd very much horses for courses, obviously won the Premiership, but now all of Borthwick and his gang have gone to England. He's got the new guy, the Aussie, is in, and he's basically, I don't know how you took this, but his basic summary to me was that we've kind of carried on with the kind of really good up front and really sort of scrap, really dominant up front, but we've added a bit of pace. And it just shows how controlling it must have been with Steve Borthwick, because Mike's comment was that now Leicester, they're looking at pace and speed, in the place of a bit of accuracy. But of course, and with people like Hassel Collins, who they've signed, and Josh Bassett, who they signed, we've come across those boys before. That is slightly worrying. The only optimism, a bit of optimism maybe I got from it, is that, if there is broken play and if they are taking a few more risks and it doesn't work out, and we have got, as we've seen, we have got the pace and the backs to maybe exploit it. So, I don't think we've got to be too depressed. But Lee, what are you going to say?
No, I was going to just follow that up, really. I mean, as depressed as it did make me feel when I was listening to Mike. Let's face it wasn't anything that surprised us. No. I mean, we know that Tigers, up front dominance, they're already a strong set-piece team. But just what you just hit on then, the accuracy thing, that can take a while to start kicking into place. And the one thing, I don't think we can match them physically, but the one thing we are good at is we have got enough ball players on the pitch to exploit if their accuracy isn't quite as good. We have got the players that can, counteract that. So, there is a snippet of hope. It's going to be a really difficult game, but we're not without a chance, I think.
Yeah, and I think you're right, and I think when you look at the matchups, particularly in the front row, because I think we're gonna have a fair. Look at even their backup front row is looking pretty good, and even their kind of backup did well against Falcons, Mike said. So, and I think I look at our tight five particularly, and I think, have we really got the grunt? Our back row potentially can match them, and they're missing a few of their big players. Visa and Reffel are at the World Cup.
But then they have got Haverall.
But they've got this Haverall who, and like as Mike said, he's like, all he wants to do is hurt people. He's the angriest bloke. He's the angriest bloke they know, and that worried me. But I guess our coaches will have thought about this for a long time. We got Dave Walder on board, who I think is a different voice and a different idea, and I suspect that we're going to have to try and keep their pack moving, keep them moving around, try and get out. We do not want to get into an arm wrestle. I don't know. Are we going to try and move them around the park? But we've done that in the past, and then we got isolated, and that sort of thing. So it's going to be interesting to see how we set up, I think, on Friday.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, if selected, it's going to be a big game for Dan Thomas at 7.
Yeah,
I think really if we can just niggle them a little bit in those areas, 6, 7, and 8, then I think we've got a chance. But again, it's like, do we run the risk of running the ball, as you say?
Well, like you said, Pete, like you discussed with Mike, the last 2 visits from Leicester have been flipping tight, haven't they? Yeah. And I think they have come to the gate, and we've been extremely worried, expecting them to push us all over the park, and they haven't, have they? We defended, suddenly stepped up, defended really well, attacked, come up with some grunts up front. Admittedly, they've got a few more dangerous players in their backs now. Hassel-Collins, as you said, and Bassett are dangerous players. So our defence on Friday night has to be tip top, and we've got a new coach. Dare I say, Newcastle had to defend a lot of the time last season, didn't they, with Dave Walder as head coach? So he's no mug, and let's just hope that he's instilled that sort of plan A, plan B, and plan C into the Bears lineup, which we've perhaps been missing over the last couple of games.
I think for me as well, the halfbacks massively important.
Yeah,
I think you've got Powell and Atkinson potentially for Tigers, and possibly Randall and AJ for us. And I think that's going to be the battle.
We've got 2 internationals. They've got 2 what might be considered to be the understudies, given the people injured and away at the World Cup. So I mean, that's an area. You're right. That is the halfback area to target, especially our back row. And Atkinson's a young lad. I mean, he's very, very talented. But I remember that there was a few years ago when Owen Farrell took him out really high when he was playing at wherever it was, Wasps or whatever. So I'm not saying that we should do that. I'm just saying that Dan Thomas, I'm sure. By the way, we forgot to mention the Cambridge way, that where we were sitting, it looked like Dan Thomas had washed his hair just before the game because it was like a sheen. There was this shiny sheen. No, I'm not joking. It was weird. It looked like he was in an Alberto Balsam advert, and this he was like tossing his hair around. It was the bizarrest thing. Anyway, so I think this is potentially that's going to kind of he's going to be bearing down on Atkinson. He's going to blind Atkinson with this sheen and flick him in the eye and then get. But anyway. Maybe not.
It's all small margins.
It is marginal gains. Marginal gains. Dan Thomas, he's probably thought, I didn't get a look in last year. I got sent to Ospreys and they got brought back again. I need to do something different. He's changed his shampoo. That's what he's done. Could be that. Forget about all this stuff about playing and tactics. Change your shampoo. Anyway, what are you going to say, Lee?
No, how can I follow that up? I mean, you've got Pat needs to be noticing Dan Thomas this year.
He was he scored 4 tries. That helped as well, didn't it? And he was all around the park. But there was a lot of people commented on the sheen of his hair. Anyway, let's lend us off nicely. We're a bit we know it's going to be a challenge, but what do we reckon then? Let's go through the team. What lineup do you think we are going to have? I mean, who fancies starting with the forwards? I mean, the problem I would say before we get there is that there were a few people who were unavailable against Cambridge, and then there were a few people that weren't unavailable, but they weren't picked, which makes me think they may have been held back. But the ones that were unavailable, as far as I can remember, was Batley was unavailable, Woolmore was unavailable for Cambridge, which in my mind suggests injury or something. But like the Ben Solomon twins, Diego Bailey, Jack Bates, who are first team squad and have played in some of the pre-seasons, weren't unavailable. I suspect they were just not playing. So with that in mind, it's kind of hard to judge. I mean, we have talked about the front row being being an area that we might be slightly worried about. I mean, what do you reckon? You go take the front row.
Personally, I think Woolley, for me, was rested. I don't think there was any, I think he's too important for us for the Cambridge game. So for me, he starts at loose head.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know Wilker picks himself, Thacker's in every day long.
Thack attack.
And obviously Capon, morning
And by the way, Capon, when he came on, should mention this. I know it's no pressure, but he looked rapid, and he has got such good hands. Yeah. And actually, I suspect he's a slightly better scrummager than. So what he's looking sharp. So him on the bench, is good.
He's ready.
It's fantastic. I think he will play a part. He will come on when the game is tiring.
And then I could see Big Max switching over to tight head. Personally, the second row, again, it's like, if Batley's out, I mean, he's a major loss for us.
Yeah.
Josh Caulfield, I do agree, would step up.
I think he's the grunt. He is now the Joycey of our team. He's not quite Southmead, but he's Western. So similar places.
He could be from the Bourneville.
So I like that. And I've got to say, boys,
we haven't got a jib.
I was going to say, Miles, you just threw it.
Sorry.
The first outing of the phrase. I definitely like the cut of his jib. He is in the jib cutter club. So you're right, Miles. Great minds, mate. Great minds. So I think
more air than Miles.
But that in itself just makes him look better. He's got a bald head and he just sticks it where it hurts.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he was running the line out and calling it. And he looked like he knew what he's doing.
And I do feel that's an important. That's a big caveat for going forward and starting the game. So I mean, in Batley's absence, it's got to be Ed Holmes, hasn't it? I don't think we've got. I mean, Joe Owen.
James
potentially
Dunn,
Dunn on the bench, but for me, Dunn's a 6, I'd say. But so I'll go for Caulfield and Holmes. I don't know if you guys agree with that.
I think if Batley is injured, he's going to have to.
I agree.
Yeah. So I've got 6, 7, and 8, depending again on everyone being fit. Fitzharding, new club captain. For me, it's 6. Dan Thomas, it's 7. And I can't, like for me, Bradbury's the 8 all day long if he's fit. So I think that's my starting 8. If you got any suggestions?
No, I don't. I think that sort of picks itself at the moment with what we know. Injuries aside, I agree. We don't know where.
Yeah, no,
Willie may have been rested. If Batley, I agree. If Batley is fit and was just rested, then he's got to come in. I think in front of Holmes, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think Jake Heenan would be on the bench to back up. He's the go-to man. He came on against Cambridge. That's his bro. He'll come on.
Yeah.
I think we'll come to subs in a minute. Actually, other subs.
Yeah, fair enough.
Do you want to quickly run through what you think the backs will be?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure it's going to be. Well, we've discussed a few changes on Friday night, but I think we've got to start with Harry Randall and AJ McGinty. Araj. Like I said, I was a bit disappointed by his kicking on Friday night. I think he would have taken us over.
Yeah, actually, this is just my opinion by watching it, and this is no kind of personal disrespect to the man who we love.
Oh, he's great.
But it looked to me like it just got worse as the game got on, and in the end, he gave the duties over to Jimmy Williams, who did that classic thing of none of this kind of leaning forward, leaning back, put his arms together. He just put the ball on the tee, took 3 steps back, and just hoofed it straight over. He did miss one, but it was quite refreshing to see. Yeah, so I suspect Jimmy.
I agree. I mean, as his gameplay was, I thought, brilliant. Yeah. I mean, I didn't put a foot wrong on Friday. But so the mindset, something's not quite right with his kicking at the moment, and there's no shame if it's not going right, to hand it over to someone else.
Williams was top scorer in the Championship 2 years ago.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think Randall and Ads half backs, and then
Well, I think Williams and Jancy van Rensburg are
themselves,
obvious.
don't they?
I think Ibitoye is obvious and Lane is obvious. But my question to you, Lane at fullback, is who's
on the other
wing
wing?
going to be?
Right. Miles, do you want to go first?
Miles quickly flicking through the squad.
Absolutely.
I was thinking.
We were discussing we were chatting this morning. Really, Diego Bailey. I think for a Leicester's gig, we need a bigger unit. Harry Ralston had a great game, so I think Bailey's back from injury, isn't he? And he's, when we've seen him, he's been great. So Bailey or Bates, but I don't know. I'd probably, for his size, put Diego Bailey on the wing this game.
I do think that's a good shout because, again, he's got pace and muscle. But I just wonder, like, for me, Bates isn't a winger. I know Pat's played in there on numerous occasions, but he's a centre for me. I've just got a funny feeling, right, that Piers O'Connor might play on the wing.
Oh, okay.
And I it is just an opinion, but I just have a funny feeling Piers O'Connor on the wing and Rich Lane at fullback.
Which he did come on Friday night, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, my only caveat on that is that maybe Piers O'Connor will be on the bench just because he covers all those options. He can play fullback, centre and wing. But it's a game of opinions.
So you both think Bailey then?
Well, I'm just thinking about their wingers, and I'm thinking about Hassel Collins, and I'm thinking about Bassett, who are operators.
Yeah.
And we've got Ibitoye on one, and I can't. Someone will know this. I can't remember whether he'll be facing up to Hassel, because I think Hassel Collins is also very physical as well as fast, and won't just. I think Mike mentioned it to me. I can't remember if he mentioned it on the.
He ran through Radwan, didn't he?
He did go round Radwan. Yeah. He thought, no, I'm going to go straight through. You're a competition for England. I'm going to smash him.
Yeah.
So Bailey's a big unit. I just think, we might stick him in there for defensive duties as much as anything.
Yeah. I mean, I think whoever we play on the wing.
Yeah,
if they've got to do a Luke Moorhan type defensive.
Oh, absolutely.
I think if Bailey's not on the wing, he may well be on the bench, and vice versa with O'Connor. So talking about the bench, I mean, it kind of fairly obvious. I mean, Marmion, I think Sheedy will be on the bench. Who, by the way, it was so great to see Callum playing with gay abandon against Cambridge. He looked brilliant. He looked like when we first saw him, and he's been up and down, Callum, but he is a quality player. Yeah. And there was one move where they made big on social media where he did a miss move, he dummied and chipped it through, and Ibitoye caught it. It was a great try. So fair play.
He was testing the paintwork on the sticks as well.
But having said that, he did. I think, you know what? I think Shido, he's such a great guy. I reckon he did it on purpose for the fans. He was Lee, you weren't there. He was 10 yards out, straight in front, and he hit the post, and it went on the inside.
Not just little clip.
Honestly, it was like Miles won't know this, but you'll know it. USA World Cup '94, the classic. What happened there with the old penalty? Diana Ross missed the penalty. It was almost as bad as that. He just about got. That is still the worst ever kick of any sort of ball in history. Yeah. Sheedy almost surpassed it, but luckily it went on the inside and went in.
There was one in baseball as well. I can't remember who it was, but because obviously traditionally in baseball they get some celebrity to throw the first pitch. And there was one throw that was so bad it was about 15 yards away from the
3 bounces,
from the catcher.
No ball. Yeah. Anyway, right. So we think. But here's my thing.
Yeah.
We've got Marmion, Sheedy, possibly O'Connor, possibly Bailey.
Yeah.
Possibly Woolmore, possibly Kloska. I think may well be on the bench. Possibly Holmes, possibly Heenan, Capon. Here's my wild card for the bench.
Yeah.
I think we've still got one person left. Big Stevie Luatua comes off the back of destroying England.
Right.
Best game.
Match fit.
I mean, he's only in France. They were in Lille. He's probably back now. He could have got the train back in 2 hours.
True.
He's been to, Semi's probably left the old hot tub in the thing. Steve's been in there. Steve had all those Bears fans with the Bears. There was a couple of looked like they'd done it the kids had written it on the kitchen table. Bristol Bears Samoa. Loving it. Adrenaline's pumping. Why? I know it's international test level, but I mean, we're talking about, it's like test level for us. We need to Steve Luatua straight back in either the side or the bench.
Well, where would he play?
Well, he could cut. I mean, he played at lock for Samoa a couple of times, and he played at number 8 on. So he'd be kind of utility.
England,
So what I'm saying is he could be the kind of Heenan and Luatur on the bench. Could, if we need to put someone at lock, I don't know. Just a thought.
It's a good shout. I don't think it'll happen, but it's a good shout. I'm throwing a curveball now, actually.
Not one that bounces 3 times.
Hopefully not. But I've just got a little sneaky feeling that we might see Fakatawa.
Really?
On the replacements bench.
Explain.
We know he's fit. We know he's
Well.
okay.
We know he's fit.
We know he's alive.
Okay. In terms of the only
In a nice way, Miles.
the only thing against that is obviously the formations of the Bears, whether he's had long enough, because we all know that that Pat needs, he likes players to know the system inside and out. But we're talking an international quality player who should quite easily be able to pick up the formations and the tactics. I don't know. It just a bit of sparkle for the start of the season.
That's why we do this podcast, mate. Because we push out little things out there that maybe it may be 10% right, but that 10% has got a chance.
Yeah.
So,
and also on that subject, I wanted to ask both of you, what's the latest on Siva again? Because is he injured? Is he not injured? At the start of the season, we always have
Siva out.
Two theories. One, he's injured again. Second theory is that he's gone back to he's Warminster as we speak in the barracks. Because he went AWOL. They've been looking for him for about the last 2 years because he's been injured. They haven't seen him on BT Sport.
He's somewhere lost on Salisbury Park.
Yeah, he's wandering around in circles now around in the village.
Maybe the GPS on his tank went a bit awry.
I don't know.
Good question.
All it is a good question. The answers to which we have no idea because we never get given any information. So let's leave it at that because we might. A season, we might get Siva for the whole season, and then we can speculate on him being. I thought you were going to say one season we might get some information.
No, that's never going to happen.
Anyway, right, I think we need to finish. We'll call it a day on Leicester. We know it's going to be a big game. Absolutely. Bring it on. Hopefully we'll see Mike and Elliot from the Rolling Maul after the game. We'll see if we do, we might have a chat with them and see what they thought. Right, let's move on, boys, because we did say when we started this we were going to try and be short. But, we can only do what we can do. So here we go. A couple of other things. And I'm going to go to you, Miles, because you are the Gokwan. And I did say Gokwan of BS3. The European shirt, the final shirt of the trio, has now been launched.
Yeah.
Bristol Balloon. I think it was Cameron Balloons did it all. Inside their balloon. Balloon thing. What's your thoughts, Miles? Off the bat, straight away.
It's a grower. We saw it in the flesh on Friday night.
You did?
It looks colourful. Some say a little bit too colourful. A mate of mine, listener, described it a bit like a koi carp. A few people on Twitter said it looks a bit like a sort of I think I said it looks a bit like an Art Deco lampshade that the Duchess would have in her boudoir. But I like the homage to the Bristol and the balloons. That's great. A bit like the bear, isn't it, from the bear pit?
Yeah.
Ursa, that's it.
And I like the fact it's made you use the word homage as well.
Absolutely.
That's always good.
Is it a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
I think it's a thumbs up. I think it's a sort of, halfway up, 45 degrees, near a thumbs up to me.
Lee?
If it's one shirt, I possibly might buy this season.
Yeah, out of the 3, it wouldn't be my favourite. I just love I prefer the away shirt, but it's a close second for me. And I do agree, Miles. I think it is going to be a grower. I think it will be quite popular as well with the younger supporters, which is always good because, there's no point in bringing these things out. People aren't going to buy them.
For old folk like us, no.
Yeah. So, I quite liked it. And again, as Miles had said, it's doffing the cap to local again, isn't it?
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think it's quite right. I quite like it. I think it's fun that they have a bit of fun with the European ones. I still think the one I had about 3 years ago, the one where we won the Challenge Cup with the pink with the black with the kind of map of Bristol and the bridge. I love that. My only comment I would say is I think this marks a new chapter in kind of rugby merchandising for Bristol, at least, where I think that they're merging game shirts and fashion wear to one thing, and hence why there is no fashion wear available as far as I can see in the store. And I think they've clearly, it's pretty obvious with the way they marketed it, with them wearing jeans for the shirt, the home shirt. It's not a bad thing. I mean, if you're trying to make something that young people will wear as well as that's not obviously a rugby shirt. I don't know what the players think about wearing pajamas and stuff like that, but I kind of see where it's going, and I'm kind of happy with it. I do think that it's a bit. I agree with you, Miles. A little bit lampshady. I mean, it was referred to as an art masterpiece on social media, which to me was very similar to Fireworks Spectacular. It was kind of pushing the boundaries of credibility, but I'm not dissing it. All right?
Yeah, I totally agree. But for me, though, it's still the range still needs to be a lot bigger than what it is.
Yeah.
We went to Tigers, we went to Welford Road a couple of years ago, and we were amazed by how many hats, beanies, t-shirts, polo shirts, replica shirts. There was everything.
It's one of the oldest goats in the land.
I think that goat will be with us until we
improve it.
I don't know what the life expectancy of a goat is, but this is at least 4 years old because of the podcast, and it was probably a goat before that as well. So,
I mean, there's not a lot in the shop still, is there? There's not a lot on sale online, and we've moaned enough, so we'll leave it at that, because obviously regular listeners would have been experiencing the same thing, won't they?
Right, boys, that's great. There's 3 things to do, actually 4. Because I just remember we didn't do predictions for the Leicester game. So we'll do that right at the end. We'll do that right at the end. So, 3 quick ones. Going to come to you first, Lee. You wanted to mention the women's team.
Yes, I did. Because we always like to just have a section as well, don't we, dedicated for the women's team. I just want to say it was a fantastic 52-21 win against our friends down the road at Sandy Park, the Chiefs. 8 tries to 3 to take us to the top of Pool A. But I did want to mention a massive congrats to Phoebe Murray. She scored a great try. She raced in from 30 metres on her 100th appearance for Bears.
Nice.
So what a time to do it.
It's a shame she didn't race in 100 metres on 100th appearance, because that would have been quality, wouldn't it?
It would have been.
30 is pretty good.
She might have overrun it and not scored a try.
That's true.
So we just wanted to mention that as congrats, because it's always nice beating them down the road, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Nicely done. Miles, one for you. Q&A with Steve Lansdowne next Friday.
Yeah, I'm afraid it's a little bit early for me. I won't be able to work on time. 5:45?
5:45,
something like that.
But this is a new chapter in the Bristol sort of fan engagement, isn't it? Q&A with fans, players, and about Steve Lansdowne.
The advisory committee.
Yeah. So we'll be interested to see how that progresses. That should have been chosen.
By the way, I nominated you for it, Miles.
Did you write 300 words for me?
Well, it was difficult. I basically had to go to ChatGPT and then it came up with something. But there's one last thing we've got to do, and that's the predictions for the Tigers game. Now, we haven't done the predictions for the season about where we're going to finish, but I've got to say, boys, I think let's just wait until the Tigers game, and we'll do it after that, I think, to be honest. So, Lee, you're in charge of predictions this year, so over to you.
Well, I'm in charge as in I've got the pen. Miles, would you like to start us off?
Right, let's go for it. So, a couple of years ago, we lost at home. We drew last year. I'm going to go for a win this year. Close one, though. I'm going to go 21 Bristol, 19 Tigers. It's going to be a tough assignment, but why not?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be incredibly tough. Mike talked a very, very good game. I'm worried about our tight 5, I've got to say, but I think if we've got the tactics to do it, if we've got the game plan, which I'd like to think we've got something to negate that, I think it's going to be so tight. I'm going to go with Miles. We've got to be positive. We can't start negative in this season, so I'm going to go for a very, very tight 18-17 win, a bit like England Samoa to the Bears.
That's a tough material, that is. I'm sorry, boys, but I am going to have to be a little bit negative. I do think it'll be tight, and I think there'll be quite a lot of niggle in this one. But I can see us going down just narrowly. I think 24-21 to Leicester for me.
Go for it. That's all right, mate. It's fine. Don't worry about it. No, I think that's good. I mean,
it
could go either way.
Absolutely.
What we know is it's going to be a humdinger. Let's hope there's a load of people down there.
Yeah.
It's the first one on TV, so we're in the shop window for the rest of the rugby fraternity, those people that watch TNT. And it's just going to be great to get down to some proper competitive rugby all over again. So that's it, boys. I think that's all for us. What do we say at the end? I never remember what we got to say. Lee, do you want to finish it off?
Then we say stay safe and have a good week.
And up the Bears.
And up the Bears.